along. So we are here to learn about Google Drive. And this is a program, and I believe most of you probably learned about this event through TechSuite. So NetSquared is a program of TechSuite. And hello, I am Sandra, and I am your NetSquared organizer for Toronto. So I believe we probably have some people from all over the world here, which is really exciting. And feel free to put a message in the chat and say hello and let us know where you're from. I do have my chat window open, and I will try to keep up with any questions as the event goes on. If I miss anything, I will try to get to things at the end. So, yes. Hi, Andrea. So yes, NetSquared is a global network of tech for good meetups. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? I'm hearing somebody talk. I'm not sure if you're, do you need help? No? Okay. Excellent. So TechSoup is a nonprofit, and they help other nonprofits get, implement, and use technology effectively. So I assume some of you probably have already been to TechSoup, but they have a whole bunch of technology that you can get at very affordable prices for your not-for-profit or charity. This is only a few of the items that they offer. The other one that they offer that I don't have the logo for on here is what we're talking about today, which is Google for Nonprofits. And NetSquared is a global network and all across the world. And some of you might actually have come in from different chapters across the world and learned about the events that we're now publicly, or we're posting more publicly. So they're kind of available to everyone because you don't have to meet in person right now, or rather you can't meet in person. So NetSquared, there's 128 groups across the world, and they're each run by a volunteer similar to me, that are here to help nonprofits build their digital skills through free events. These are NetSquared's community values, and I think they're, pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to read them one by one, but we are, very welcoming and collaborative group. And basically, we're hoping to build stronger not-for-profits to make the world a better place, because that's what all these not-for-profits do. And it's exciting to be able to contribute to that. So if you do need any tech help, I'm not sure if you guys are aware or have been there yet, but there are forums and additional information and even more webinars available on forums.techsoup.org. Excuse me. So it's worth checking out if you haven't been there yet. I was actually browsing through there today, and I hadn't really dug deep in there in a while. And there's a lot of great, topics and people helping each other out. So a little bit about me. I am the organizer for the Toronto area chapter here of NetSquared. But in my daytime hours, I'm an IT product and project manager for a government agency, and I do that full time. And I've been implementing systems, and I originally started with HR payroll systems, but I've branched out to all sorts of systems over the past decade or two. And I've been working on some really fun and exciting projects. And I've also been working with a lot of small businesses, and that's kind of how I ended up here and running my own little company all about systems. Over the past, I think it was about 5 years ago, I started my own meetup group for single parents because I wanted to get myself and my daughter out to meet other single parents and kids, and I hadn't found the meetups that worked for me, so I started my own. And last year, we actually became part of the Toronto Area became part of the One Parent Families Association, and I became the president of the Toronto Area chapter of that organization, which is a not-for-profit. And I have worked on other not-for-profit boards before as well and helped them set up their systems. So now I'm doing the same thing with them and with the organization overall over the past year. And that led me to find out about NetSquared and TechSuite, because we were trying to set up our own systems and looking for resources. And we came across them, and I found out that they were looking for some organizers for Toronto. And it was right up my alley because I love meetups, I love networking, and I love charities. So it's kind of the perfect mix for me. So a little bit about what I do for All About Systems. I help all sorts of organizations, almost any size, but I'm trying to focus my efforts a little more now on helping small to medium-sized charities and not-for-profits, associations, specifically board of directors I'm interested in working with and helping them set up efficient operations. It's if you have a board that works efficiently, you're going to get a lot more done, which means you're going to do a lot of good for the world. And that's kind of where I'm looking to streamline my focus on. So I do offer one-on-one training and consulting. I can help with automating and integrating some of your cloud-based solutions. And one of the other things I'm interested in helping with is setting up and maintaining your Google for Nonprofits account. Now, I'm not sure how many of you know, but Google just recently changed their GSuite branding to Google Workspace. They haven't changed the branding on the Google for Nonprofits yet, but they will be changing it. Right now, it's just a branding change, so it's not changing any of the features or functionality that you get. So that is a little bit about me. And moving along, we're going to start talking about Google Drive. And this is the reason we are here tonight, after all. So hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have an idea of how Google Drive works. Plus, you'll get some extra tips and tricks on how you can be productive to use it. And specifically, I'm trying to focus a little more on what the benefits are in using Google Drive for nonprofits. So I will reference the free version of Google, but I think it's more important to highlight the extras and the bonus stuff that you get if you sign up for Google Drive through the Google Drive, sign up through the Google for Nonprofits program. Okay, so let's get into a little overview. So as I mentioned, as most of you here, I assume are probably either part of a nonprofit or working with nonprofits, the best way to get Google Drive is to go through the Google for Nonprofits program. And it is relatively easy to sign up for. You need to fill out a few forms. You need to have your eligibility requirements met. And for the most part, if you're a registered charity in your country, you shouldn't have many issues getting the Google for Nonprofits. Excuse me. You do need to validate through TechSoup in most instances, which is kind of how I found out about TechSoup in the first place, because when I was trying to validate my Google for Nonprofit account for our charity, that's how I found TechSoup. But it's pretty easy to use and to get set up in the first place. You do need to have your own domain name. So you can't have like just a regular @Gmail. You need to have your own proper @mycharity.com domain name to get it. So these are some of the products that you can get with Google for Nonprofits. I'm not going to go into each of them, obviously, because we're here for a very specific reason to look at Google Drive. But one of the products you would get would be GSuite. So Google Drive is part of the GSuite offering. And some of the overview and benefits of GSuite in general for nonprofits. I think one of the key ones is that you can set up your organization to have your own email accounts. So you can have your @mycharitiesdomain.ca email account, which really helps to increase trust with people that you're working with, and especially as a charity. You know, if you're asking people for money or you're looking for volunteers, people want to work with charities and organizations that they trust, and having that domain name email account, as small of a thing as it may seem, really does build a lot of trust that you know, people are interacting with an organization that is legitimate. But there are obviously a lot more benefits than just having an email domain. A couple things the probably not as obvious ones is the access to Google Classrooms, which you can get access to Google Classrooms on your free Google account as well. But when you have it as part of your organization, you get to maintain and control all those files as well. And Google Classrooms is a great way to deliver some basic training or training materials to your board of directors, so that when new board members come in and out, they all get the same training and information. Same with your volunteers. You can have other ones set up for whatever programs you might be delivering as well. Storage we'll talk about as well. You do get 30 gigabytes per user and shared drives, which we're going to get into much more detail later. Communication is obviously one of the key benefits of the whole GSuite product. You do get Google Meet as well as email, which obviously helps you communicate, and working together and collaborating on files is a great way to communicate more efficiently as well. So now moving on specifically to Google Drive. So on your free personal Google Drive account, you get 15 gigabytes of space. If you have the nonprofit version, you get 30 gigabytes of space in your drive per user. So it's not 30 gigabytes for the entire organization. Each user will get 30 gigabytes of space in their drive. One thing to note on both the free version and on the Google for nonprofits is items in your trash will be deleted after 30 days. So that's something new that just happened this past fall. I believe it was middle of October they changed that. They used to let you keep items in your trash forever in your personal Google account, and I guess they decided they were running out of space, so they've started deleting them after 30 days. Now, if you have a Google Drive through your nonprofit account, you can change those settings, and you can, there's back-end administrative privileges so that you can kind of change what gets deleted and what doesn't. So you have a little bit more flexibility with that as well. And obviously, being a Google product, Chrome does work best when you're using Google Drive. It's just much easier to use there, and it's a bit better integrated. These are all the applications that you can use with Google Drive, and they're all these Google products you can use on your Google Drive, and they don't count towards your storage. So you can have as many Google Docs and sheets and slides and forms and drawings and sites as you want, and none of them will count towards that 30 gigabytes of storage that you get per user. So what will count towards that storage are things like PDFs, if you convert things to PDFs and then save them in your drive, or audio files or video files. Those will count towards your storage space. Now, I'm pretty sure though, if you embed a video in your Google slide, that won't count towards your storage. So that might be a way around it sometimes, depending how big your file is, of course. Okay, moving on. So the reasons to use Google Drive, and this is more specifically for Google Drive for nonprofits. These are some use cases and examples as to why you might want to use Google Drive. And of course, there are a ton out there, and I'm not going to be able to come up with every single example, but obviously it's a great place to store your board meeting minutes and financial reports so that everybody has access to them and you can share them. Working on your strategic plan for the year or budgets for the year, it's a great way to collaborate on files together. Recruiting and training your volunteers. You can have all of your training materials in one place that are, can be modified by different people at the same time. And it's also a great way to be able to share documents with your donors and supporters or any other people external to the organization as well. Now, specifically for nonprofits, these are all kind of features that are not available with the free GSuite account. So Google Drive for Nonprofits allows you to create team and shared drives. And we'll see that in a little bit so that you can get a better understanding. But essentially, it creates your own folder structure that the specific team can have access to. And you can all work within that drive knowing that nobody else has access to it, unless you give them access to it, of course. Another great feature about Google for Nonprofits is that you're able to create your own templates. So that would be for sheets and docs and slides, I think are the three that you can create your own templates for. And of course, you can create your own templates in regular, you're in the free version of Google, and just kind of reuse the template and copy as and save it. But having your own templates for nonprofits is a little different, because you know that master file is never going to change or get lost, right? And it's something that can be used across the organization. Another great feature is that you can transfer files between users. So your treasurer decides they're going to resign, and they've had their time, they're done, they're ready to move on. You don't have to worry about their files. They're still there. They're in your organization. You can transfer those files to a new user. When you set up your email accounts, you can also consider setting up treasurer at your organization.ca or .com. That way, you can just reset the password, and the new board member can have that account and continue right where the other person left off without having to worry about sharing information or putting it on a USB stick and sending it in the mail, which is probably not advisable. You can, I already kind of mentioned this earlier, how you can customize share settings as well at the admin level. So you can decide which folders or rather which drives or groups are allowed to share externally or not. And again, I've already mentioned that you do get that extra storage per person. So you get that 30 gigabytes versus 15, and that's just for the free version, right? You can also choose to pay additional for Google for Nonprofits. It is a reduced rate from the regular GSuite offerings, but there are other options available. If you do need more storage space or additional security features, there's more advanced plans, which are still a reasonable price. And there's also priority, it's not really a drive, priority feature with drives. And we'll look at that in a little more detail, because it's easier to show you what that means than it is to talk about it. Okay, so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of these features that are specific to Google for Nonprofits on Drive. The first one being My Drive versus shared drives. So when you have your free Google account, you have My Drive, which is all of your files, and it's only you have access to it and you own everything. And then the shared drives is what you get with Google for Nonprofits. And that's really what helps you work collaboratively with your team and make sure you're sharing things with the right people. So these are a few of the differences between the two. So obviously My Drive is free, but for you guys, shared drives is also free. So sometimes I do this presentation for regular business owners who don't have the benefit of being able to use that Google for Nonprofits free discount, I guess. So they would have to pay for the shared drive feature, but that would be included with the Google for Nonprofits. As far as ownership goes, on the My Drive, you own your own files, whereas shared drive, the organization will actually own it, and the person who has that GSuite account tied to that organization will own those files. Both options allow a backup options. They're essentially the same functionality. They're just called something different and they look a little different, but you can still back up your information on both. And as I mentioned, templates, you can create those on the Google for Nonprofit shared drives. And you do get better security and customization when you're working with the Google Nonprofit shared drives as well. And in general, my drive is typically something you're going to use. Maybe if you're a solopreneur working on your own or just for individual use, my drive is great. My drive is even great for small businesses that maybe don't have that domain need to have that domain email address, or they're maybe smaller businesses that they can get away with it. But the shared drives really are better for smaller to larger businesses with more users that are sharing files and information and need that extra level of security and storage and collaboration. So visually, this is what it would look like. So I'm sure most of you have probably at least peeked at Drive, which is why you're probably here wanting to know a bit more. So on the left here, we have what you would typically see on the menu for your personal My Drive. And on the right, this is what you would get if you had the drive for Google for Nonprofits. So you still have My Drive when you have your nonprofit account, but it's your drive as part of the organization. So those files wouldn't come with you if you left the organization because it's not tied to a personal account, it's tied to your organizational account. So similar, if I were to work for any company and get a laptop from them, the files that I put on their laptop are going to stay with their laptop. Not, I don't get to bring those home with me. If I do, I've done something wrong. So the main differences here are that priority section, which we'll talk about in a bit, the shared drives, and the storage amount. So the power of using Drive is really being able to share and collaborate all of these different files with others and work on them to kind of achieve what you need to achieve. And now, as I mentioned, your administrator can restrict who's able to share information, and if you're going to share information externally or not. You can restrict that at your organizational levels to make sure your data information stays secure if you need it to, or if you need it to be able to share with others, you can open that up at the administrative level. So when you're working either in Drive itself or with any of your documents, these are some of the different symbols and icons you'll be looking for to be able to share that file. So it might appear as a button at the top of the document if you're working in a document. If you right-click on the file name or folder name, you'll see the little share icon, which looks like a little person, or you can get the shareable link, which kind of looks like a paperclip. Those are the different icons you'll be looking for when you want to share a file. So there's two ways to share. One of them is to share specifically with people in groups. So if this is that first option, you would enter in the users that you want to share something with. So again, based on the settings of your organization, you can choose to share it internally or externally. If you're not allowed to share externally, you'll get an error message pop up saying you can't share with somebody outside your organization. And you will also get a message even if you are allowed to share externally, you will get a message saying you're about to share this with somebody external. Are you sure you want to do that? And you get to double check that that is really what you want to do. So when you are sharing people in groups, something to note is that if they are not part of your organization or they don't have a Google account, if they don't have a Google account, then they'll only be able to view the file. So they won't be able to collaborate and work with you. on it, and which is fair. I mean, they do have free accounts out there, so if they don't have to have a Google account with your organization, they just need to have a Google account so that they can collaborate on the documents with you. You can also change how the type of access a person has. So in this example here on the screen, I'm going to share it with someone and give them editor access, but I could have also chosen to give them view-only access, for example, if I wanted to. So the other way you can share with somebody is to create a link. So if you share with a link, you can also choose whether you're going to restrict it to specific people or if you're going to let anybody with the link open it. Typically, if you're sharing with a link, you're usually letting anybody with the link see that file, but it'll depend. You can copy the link here and then you can plop it into an email or a chat or however else you want to share that link, and that will allow the user who has the link to open the document you're sharing directly. Okay, so we're doing pretty good for time. I'm going to walk you through a little demo. Let's see. Do you guys still see my screen? You see a nice galaxy there? You still, no, you don't see that anymore because now I'm on a different tab. Let's see. Sure. There you see my Google screen. So this is my my One Parent Family Association's charity Google Drive account or Google account. So I'm going to go to Drive. And you can also type in drive.google.com. But for the most part, I tend to always go here to get all of my my Google applications, nice and handy way to get them. This seems to be slow. Hopefully I'm not cutting out on you guys. Okay, so start here at the far left. So anytime you click on Drive, that'll bring you back to your main home, just like most web pages work nowadays. Creating new files is as simple as clicking on New. You can create new folders, or you can upload files from your computer, or you can upload entire folders as well. This is where you can also go to quickly create new doc sheets, slides, and forms, or more. So there, and I think I mentioned this later on in the presentation, but since I'm here anyhow, this is where you would go to connect more apps. So there are a whole bunch of other apps that you can use with Google Drive. And I do have a couple I think I mentioned later on, which I'll show you. But there's a whole bunch of them that you can, that's another course for another day. All right, so we have a priority, which I'm going to come back to because I want to show you a few other things before I show you priority, because I think that one's pretty cool. My Drive, this is where all of my personal files are kept. So this is stuff that I am working on myself that I haven't wanted to share with anybody on my team or in my organization yet. And all of my files appear as a grid, just because that's what I prefer. But if you prefer to view your files a different way, you can click on this icon here and change between a grid view and a list view. So this one is handy if you have a lot of files and you want to take a look at the date as well and really see the full file name. That might be a better view, but you can toggle it on and off however you like there. You can create your own folders under your Drive. So if I create a new folder. And I'm not feeling very creative tonight, I apologize. I'm just going to call it my folder. And there we go, I've got my folder here. So now I can double click. I can drag and drop files in here from my desktop, or if I've downloaded something and it shows up in the bottom bar, I can drag it from there and drag it right into my file folder. I can also create new folders or new files right from here. I can also create new documents from a template. So I'm going to quickly go in there so I can show you. I don't think I have any templates set up for this organization. These are the standard templates that come even with the free Google Drive version. There are a whole bunch of templates here, and they're a great starting point for just about anything you need. Project proposals, brochures, meeting minutes are in here as well, which is really handy. Actually, our organization uses the template, the default template here for our board meetings. It's got everything you need. It's pretty handy. So if we did have, I don't think I set it. Oh, I did set one up. So if you did have your own custom templates, they would show up here. So you can submit them by clicking on Submit Template, and you can get all the ones for your organization to show up right here, which is really handy. All right, so that's just how you would create a new document. So I'm going to go, oh, why don't we create one? Okay, so I've now got my new document, which is not related to the title at all, but I was just testing things out here. Just pretend it makes sense. We have a document, that's all we need, right? So now if I go back to my drive in my folder, I'll see that there's that document there. And now with this document, if I right click on it, I can do all sorts of things with it. So previewing it means it'll just show up kind of overlaid on top of the drive. So it doesn't actually open it in the new tab. It just lets me quickly preview the document here. I can open it with different applications. So depending what the file is, if this was a Word doc, and I think with Word, you need to have a specific application plugin installed on Chrome, but I could have opened it with Word in some cases. Sharing, if I wanted to share the file. I showed you this box earlier. This is where I would type in who I want to share it with. I could choose whether I want to notify them, send them a message. I can change the type of share I want to give, and I can hit send to share it with that person. Or I can click on Get Link, and I can also change if I want to share it just with the organization or with anyone with the link. And I can copy and I can paste that somewhere if I need to. Other things I can do, this is related to the priority, which we'll get to later. I can add a shortcut to the drive. This is a handy tool for anybody who doesn't use the priority feature. So I'll explain it a little bit later. Move, if I wanted to move it to a different folder, I can go back and I can, pick my stuff and I can put it in that folder if I wanted to move it. All of your kind of standard stuff. Add to start is a great feature as well, because if I select add to start, then when I go here in my menu to start, I can find that document here again. Or I can remove it and then it's gone. Renaming is as simple as clicking that and changing the name and OK or hit enter. Viewing details, this is really handy if, especially when you're collaborating with a lot of people. you can see the activity on the documents. So you can see that I created this. If there was more activity on the document, you would see that, you know, somebody else made some edits to it, or and when they made them. So that's handy as well to see what's been happening with a specific file, especially when you have a lot of people collaborating on it. And like most files, you're able to, you know, see all the details when it was modified and opened. What's also handy, and especially when you're working with groups, is you can add a description. So you might find that useful in your organization, especially maybe for onboarding documents or something. It might be helpful to provide some additional information here if you need to. Activity. You can also make a copy of the file, and it'll create a copy of the same file in the same folder that you're in. Report abuse. I'm really not sure when you would use this. I guess if you're a really large organization and you don't like something somebody wrote, I'm really not sure when you would use it. I haven't thought of a good use case for it. Maybe you know one, I'm not sure. You can also download the file. So if you needed to get this off of your drive and wanted it on your desktop for whatever reason, you can do that. I'm more likely to, there is something in the help menu that for the, like, and it basically just tells you, you know, that, you know, if it's something that doesn't adhere to Google's policies, I just can't think of why, when I'm working in my Google Drive with my organization, I would be reporting that to Google instead of my own administrators. I think that's what confuses me about it. I'm not sure. Where was I? Oh yeah, so downloading, I'd be more likely to download something that's like an image file probably than a document, but you have the option to download. And again, you can remove it with it to your trash, which will be deleted after 30 days of sitting in your trash unless your admin has changed those settings. It could be different. That's working with files. And depending on the file type you have here, you might see some different options. Like there might be a couple different ones for slides versus sheets, but essentially that's what you would get with working with files. As far as folders, if you right click on folders, you also get several options, and most of these are the same as if you were to work with the file. The one that I find really useful, although I don't use it extensively, but I could see a really great use for it, is to change the color of your file folder. So especially if you're in here a lot, you might find it useful to color code your folders to bring extra attention to files that you need, or to make it easier to find things that you're looking for on a regular basis. It's a neat little extra tool. If you download a folder, it will create a zip file of everything. And same thing goes if you highlight multiple files in your Google Drive once. You can also download them, and it'll download them into a zip file. Okay, so now we're going to move on to shared drive. So my drive is my files. Shared drive means I now get to share these files with the team. So right now I have, we'll go here, I have one shared drive for my Toronto area chapter. And that means that these 6 people all have access to this drive. So we can all go in here and work on items and move things around based on the permissions we have set up for ourselves. Now, say I decided I only want to, I mean, this is only 6 people, it's a small organization, but you know, say that was 60 people and I really only want to create a team of 6 people. this can be a little bit tricky because it's, I think, the only way you can create a shared drive. And so if you're not highlighted on shared drive before you click new, I don't think you get that option. So just make sure you selected shared drives. And if you click new, then you'll be able to create a new shared drive. And I'm going to create a new shared drive for my board of directors. So now I have another shared drive. So if I go back here, you'll see I've got two now. So now I can start adding my board of directors to this team, and only my board of directors are going to be able to see what's in this shared drive. So it's a really handy way to segregate your files, and you could also have another shared drive just for volunteers where you're only letting external people access it, or maybe access training materials. And within the shared drive itself, it essentially works the same way as what I showed you in my drive. You still have files and folders, and you can right-click and share and move things around the same way. The main difference being that you can manage your members, and only specific people would be allowed to work in that shared drive. Okay, so I'm going to move along. I'm doing for time. Okay, so shared with me, this is any documents that somebody has shared with me specifically. So I find that really handy when I can't remember where I put that file that so-and-so shared with me, but I know it was a Google Drive that they shared with me, or a Google Doc. So if I go here, I can easily find that as well. Recent files, this is anything that you've worked on recently. Obviously, start, I've already showed you, and trash. I think that, so the last thing I wanted to show you was the priority workspace, which is a really neat feature, especially when you're working on a lot of files and you have a lot of activity in your organization. This is a great way to create a personal workspace. So essentially what you can do is create a workspace, and what you'll be able to do in this workspace is pull in files from different areas in your, from different areas of your Google Drive. So I'm just gonna be original and call this my workspace. And now I can add files. So I can add them from my recent files. I can add them from my drive, which are things that I'm personally working on, or I can add them from my shared drives. So a good example of maybe how you might use this is if, maybe you're the treasurer for the entire organization, and you need to, and you're responsible for the financial report at each of the chapters, and each chapter has their own shared drive, and you want to put everything into one place so that you can work on it. So you can go and grab all the financial reports from each of the individual shared drives and put them in your workspace so you can work on them in one place. Trying to think of other examples, and the same might be true for like volunteer reports or other types of reports that might span across the organization, that they each have their own shared drive, and you want to pull them all into one personal workspace. So it's a really handy feature. And I believe, there's a 25 file limit, so you can add up to 25 files per workspace, but you can add multiple workspaces as well if you need to. Now, to go back, if you're still using the free personal version of Google Drive, you can still kind of set up your own priority workspace just by using a folder. So if I right-click on any file, I can add a shortcut to Drive, and then I can put it in a folder. So I can put it in my stuff, for example, or maybe I should create a new folder, but I could put it in my stuff. but I can call it my workspace, for example, right? So I can do the same thing using shortcuts and putting them in my own folder if I didn't have Google for Nonprofits. So that's just an extra tip for if you're using that on your personal drive. Okay, so let me know. Oh, okay, so yes, it essentially makes a link. So it's another way to get to the same file, and it's not a copy. That's correct. Yes, Dan. Okay, let me go back to my slides. Okay. You see my demo slide again? Excellent. Okay. So a few more tips and tricks before we wrap this up. So as I showed you, you're able to share a file by sharing a link that goes directly to that file. And this was a really neat tip that I found that can be really useful, especially if you're sharing stuff via email. Essentially, this will automatically convert your Google Doc into a PDF and download it instantly for the user. So before, this is like the original link that you would get if you selected share link. If I change the end part of that link from edit, so if I take out the edit USP equals sharing and I add export format equals PDF, if I click on this link, it will automatically download a PDF. And it should do it. I don't remember what file this was, but I think you can see at the bottom here, it automatically downloaded this PDF for me. So it's a neat little trick, and you might find some useful cases for that. Some other just kind of general tips I have as far as folders go. I find it handy, especially in my personal Google Drive, to have a kind of inbox folder. So, you know, I might get stuff in my email that I kind of want to save, but I'm not sure where I want to put it yet, or I take, I'm scanning things with my phone. Or taking pictures that I kind of need to file somewhere. I find it handy to have an inbox in my Google Drive, just so I can kind of use it as a place to save everything. I also find it useful to have an archive. I used to, and I still sometimes fall into the habit of creating this crazy folder structure that's really deep and it's almost impossible to find things. And the one thing I didn't show in the demo that I just realized I forgot is the search feature. Google has an amazing search feature. It is really easy to find your documents no matter where they are. So it becomes a little less important as to how you structure your entire folder layout and how deep you're going to go, because you can really find anything you want in there. Just as long as you know some of the keywords and some of the key fields, you can search and find it. So I've tried to start getting into the habit of just, if I don't need it, I'm just throwing it into an archive folder and I'll find it eventually if I need it. So that's just another tip. Another tip is the way you name your folders or files. If you use numbers at the beginning, that might help you organize the way the folders and files show up on in your drive. And that's really useful when you're looking at the, like if you're using shortcuts to create your own kind of priority folders, that will help as well. And similar with files and with dates specifically, I find it if you name your folders in month, year and the numeric month before you start adding any text, then it'll automatically sort it for you in a logical format instead of sorting it alphabetically, and then it's hard to find where those months are. Might be common sense by now, I don't know, but sometimes, you know, if that helps somebody and saves them a little bit of time, then I like to share. So we still have a few more minutes left, and I think I'm doing pretty good for time. I have a few other things I'd like to share with you. So working offline is another great benefit of using Google Drive. And in order to work offline with Google Drive, which you obviously want to do so that you can use these files and Google Docs offline, I know some people have asked me for help on this because they haven't been able to get it to work properly. So just some key points is to make sure that you're logged into the correct Chrome account. So when you're using your Chrome browser, you'll notice there's two icons in the top corner. So unfortunately, this thing keeps showing up. Let me see if I can make it smaller. So you have the two icons that show up in the top. So the one in the very, very top right is your Chrome user. And the one that shows up when you're browsing Google Drive that's a little bit farther down is your Google account. And so if you're on Google Drive, that would be what your Drive account is. So if you're logged in as a different Chrome user and a different Google Drive account, then you're going to have difficulty working offline because it won't allow you to. And maybe you guys don't have this problem because you don't have as many accounts as I do, but in working with clients and helping other people, and I have my personal Google account and I have my organizational ones and my not-for-profit ones, I came across this issue. So you guys may come across it as well. So what you want to make sure is that you're logged into the same account on both Chrome and Drive. And if you are logged in correctly, when you go to your Google settings in Google Drive, you'll see the option to work offline. So if you're logged in correctly, you'll be able to check off that box to allow you to work offline. If you're not logged in correctly, then you won't be able to work offline because it's going to think that another user is already working offline. So that's my tip. Once you have that set up correctly, then you should be able to work offline, and you would do that by going to the files that you want to use offline and right-clicking and making sure that they're available offline. Okay, and I think this might be my last tip, but Google Drive for your phone. If you haven't downloaded it for your phone, it is great. Feature I find is the ability to scan. So you can scan anything you need right away and put it right into your Google Drive, probably maybe right into that inbox that I was talking about earlier would be a good spot for it. So it's like your own personal scanner. You can take it right from your phone instead of having to take a picture and then sharing it by email and getting it online, getting it to your Drive. This is one step, scan directly into your Drive, and it's really convenient. Oh, there's the scan button. All right, a couple words on integrations. There are so many integrations out there for Google Drive. Just almost every product, I think, actually integrates with Google Drive. There's so many of them, but a couple of my favorites are Slack and Asana, and it's just really, it works really well with them, where you're able to have the information and communicate on it. Got somebody cooking. There we go. So they work really well. OCR, optimal character recognition. I think I pronounced that right. So it does. If you take a picture of a document or of handwriting, and I believe though it has to be in PDF format. And if you upload it to your Google Drive in PDF format and open it with Google Docs, it will convert it to writing to type. So yes, I forgot to put that in here. That was one of the really, oh, that's why, because it's in my Google Doc presentation, not my Drive presentation. But yeah, that you are able to do that, which is another great tip. Thank you. So yes, so integration. So these are a couple of my favorites. And as I showed you during the demo, you can obviously connect many more by going to that plus sign and going to more, and then connecting more apps. There are a ton to choose from. Another one of my favorites is diagrams.net. So this one is great for org charts and business process flows, which I am also a huge fan of. It really helps you create clear and concise ways to present information and to make sure everybody's on the same page as far as how something works. There are a lot of different types of diagrams they have in here as well. You can create floor plans for your office space if you're lucky enough to be working within 6 feet of other people. Unfortunately, I'm not anymore. But there's a lot of great tools there and diagrams, and it integrates beautifully with Google Drive, and you can embed them into your slides as well. And of course, you can't talk about integrations without talking about Zapier. It's great with Google Drive and with just about any other app and getting things to work together. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but if you want it, Zapier does have a free plan where you can connect up to 5 zaps is what they call them. So basically 5 connections to automate your workflows. And I've used it with from WordPress to Meetup for our events, Meetup to emails to change the way emails are sent, because I didn't kind of like how it was doing it. I update spreadsheets from my Google Docs. So when I create Meetup events for our internal charity group, I automatically put the event in the spreadsheet so I can see all the events that are getting created, and then I can track some stats and KPIs that I want there. So lots of great opportunities to connect. And I think that brings me to the end. And if you need additional help, so the Chrome setting for working offline, let me see if I can show you. This is my personal one, but it would be in the same spot. So the Drive settings is this little icon up here. So if you go in here to settings, oh, of course it's going to slow down now. And then your offline setting is here. So hopefully that helps, Linda. And yes, so you're not alone. The help menu on Google Drive, which is right here next to the settings, is probably the first place you can go to look for additional help right from Google. And they've got some decent help and training materials available there as well. And they have some training as well. If you need help, I'm also available to help. If you need help getting Google for Nonprofits set up, that's what I like to do. So I'm happy to help with that as well. I do have some implementation packages available. Like I mentioned, I also have one-on-one training available. You can also book a call with me. I love to network. I'd love to hear what you guys are up to, what your challenges are. I'd love to hear if there's other topics of interest that you would be interested in having either myself present on, or help me put me in touch with others who might want to present. I do have a couple events that are coming up in November and December. We're going to be doing the 7 simple tips to protect nonprofits from cyber criminals. Again, we had done that last, I think a couple of weeks ago, we did that in the evening, but it was, I think the timing just wasn't right for that one. So we're going to do it again as a lunch and learn. And there's a lot of great information that Miguel provides there. And then on December 2nd, we have a best-selling author coming to tell us how to gain trust online in the socially distanced world. That's got a lot of interesting information in it as well. And I'm hoping to do another session, probably myself, unless I find another presenter on the 18th. If you guys have any ideas or topics of what you'd like to learn next, pop it in the chat or book a call with me or send me an email. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what you guys would like to get out of this NetSquared Toronto meetup group as well. We're trying to ramp things up and keep things going. And I really would love to know what you want. So feel free to let me know. And I think that's all I've got. I don't see any other questions. I think I answered everything as they came in.
Can I ask a quick question about, there's something called Google Tables that was released a couple of weeks ago, and it's in beta, and it's only available in the US. And it integrates, just like Google integrates everything else, it does project management and things like that. And currently we're in Canada and accessing that tool through VPN. And we found it amazingly helpful. And it's really new. And I was hoping that could make a huge difference in non-for-profit for keeping everything in the same place without having to go outside.
I haven't heard of it yet.
So what I would love to do is I'll get my team members who've had like 2-3 weeks to play with it, and we'll try to book a session with you and show you how we've used it. And we want to make sure is that can also be shared with other non-for-profits because it made a huge
that would be great.
Us.
I would love to see it for sure.
So I'm very new to it myself, but I've been really grateful that the team has taken it on. And I'll contact you. I have your calendar here.
Excellent.
So thank you so much for sharing this presentation. I found it really helpful as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And sorry, I didn't catch your name. You didn't pop up here.
My name is Saad Ahmed, and I'm from Tiny Toronto. I'll just put my contact details in the chat here.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Does anyone else have any input? Anything they want to share? Anything they want to learn? All right, I guess that's a wrap for tonight then. So thank you guys so much for coming, and hope to see you guys in a couple of weeks. Keep me posted as to what you want to see. All right, have a good night, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.